Hello and welcome to my knitting podcast episode 2. So this Belle Blouse was actually a test knit. I look like I'm a baby wearing a bib right now. Look how nice! How pretty would that be? Today is March 31st, so it's a perfect time to film this knitting podcast. My name is Cindy and I started knitting in 2023, so this is my second year of knitting and I am addicted. So I just wanted to share with you guys everything I've been knitting, things I want to knit, all my yarn acquisitions, just everything like that. So if you're interested in watching or kind of following me along in my knitting journey, definitely subscribe to my YouTube channel or follow me on Instagram. I update my Instagram a lot more often than my YouTube, only because YouTube videos take me a little bit longer to edit. On my YouTube channel, I typically upload 2 types of videos. One is this knitting podcast and the other one are knit vlogs. I actually uploaded one more recently for the Puro Cardigan. Actually, that's the cardigan I'm wearing right now. So if you're interested, go check it out as well. I'll be linking it right there. But watch this first and then go watch that one. I also have another knit vlog up for the Salty Day sweaters. So if you're interested in watching my vlog on that one, check that one out as well. So for my knitting podcast, how I want to structure these is I will go through any FOs that I had for the month. Then I'll move on to whips, then I'll move on to yarn acquisition, and lastly, knitting plan. And of course, sometimes it gets a little bit intertwined because I'll have yarn acquisitions for my whips and stuff like that. So you might find me jumping from here to there. But yeah, I'll try my best to keep it organized for us. So let's get started with FOs. So this is my first FO for the month and it is the Puro Cardigan. And the yarn I used for this is the Noro Madara in the color Sake. I know this is a very popular color that most people use for cardigans, and that was actually the reason why I chose to knit it in this yarn. I just fell in love with what other people were knitting and I loved how beautiful it looked on them, so I wanted a cardigan in this color for myself and it did not disappoint. I think it looks great. So this pattern is actually designed by Yamamuro and I will put a picture of her wearing her cardigan up here. She looks great. I just really like the construction of this because it is very boxy and oversized. So if you can see here, there's a ton of positive ease, but at the same time it's pretty cropped, so we can see that it doesn't really end too low. Usually my problem with big boxy oversized cardigans is that it becomes too long and it feels like it's consuming me, just because I'm a little bit shorter. So when I wear big oversized sweaters or cardigans, it looks a little bit silly on me, but because this is so cropped, it doesn't actually look like that on me and it just gives the oversized boxy feel, which is exactly what I was looking for. I knitted this in a size 3 because Rui had a picture of her wearing a size 3 and she looked so good on it and it was exactly the oversized look I wanted for myself. So I also knitted a size 3. Overall, I love this pattern and the pattern was super easy to read, super easy to understand. I had no issues with it at all. For the construction of the cardigan, I'll just note out some interesting things that I found about it that I haven't really seen in other cardigan patterns. So number 1 is the V is pretty deep, which is really nice. And of course, as I mentioned, it's very cropped. So once you join for the body, it's actually basically the ribbing and you're practically done the body after like a couple of centimeters. The armhole goes really, really low. The sleeves are ginormous, if you can tell. Like, this is my arm. I feel like I have bat wings. It's connected by 4 buttons. One thing I will say is that the button band flares out, and I think it's because the last button is placed a little bit higher than normal. So if you place your button a little bit lower, I think it helps with the flare out. But I'm thinking I can actually just do like a snap closure at the bottom just to keep the bottom in place so it doesn't keep flaring out. Overall, I would say this cardigan is super fast to knit because it's knitted on 6.5 mm and also bulky. So you can definitely knit this up in 1 to 2 weeks. If you're looking for something to knit over a long weekend, or maybe you have a week off of work and you have nowhere to go, definitely consider knitting up this cardigan because it'll be done in no time. Each of these sleeves took me 1 day to knit. The button band also took me in total about a day to knit. The ribbing was super fast as well. The only thing that took me a long time was the yoke because of the increases, and I suck at counting, so that's probably a me issue. But if you can get through the yoke, I feel like everything else is super fast to finish up. So I highly recommend this to anybody who's looking for a super fast knit and an oversized baggy cardigan. Here is a look at it. I will also say that the sleeves are very long for me on this cardigan, but that was not a pattern issue. This was a me issue because I blocked it a little bit longer than what the pattern suggests. So if you're thinking that the sleeves are long, it's not the pattern, it's me. I really should have just followed the pattern for that one, but I didn't. If you want to know more about the knitting process and all the issues that I kind of ran into while knitting this, definitely go check out my knitting blog because I go really detailed into everything that happened, and I basically document me knitting each part of the cardigan. So yeah, if you're interested, definitely go watch that. I was actually considering using wooden buttons for this just so that it would kind of go with the yarn, but I couldn't find any that I liked, so I decided to go with these clear plastic buttons. I think these look great too, so yeah, I'm very happy with them. And yeah, I think that's it about this cardigan. If you have any other comments or questions about this cardigan, definitely leave it down below and I'll try my best to answer. Overall, it's just such a comfy, cozy wear, and I really like this cardigan. Alright, let's move on to my second FO, which is crazy that I have 2 FOs this month because normally I can't even finish 1 project per month, but somehow this month I finished 2, so I am very proud of myself. For the second FO, it is actually a test knit. It is called the Belle Blouse and it's by Maiden Knitwear. Look how gorgeous. So this Belle Blouse was actually a test knit, and before I go any further, I just want to make the disclaimer that anything that's a test knit, the pattern was received for free so that I could test the pattern, find errors, or comment on any fit issues, or just basically any feedback back to the designer. In terms of the yarn, most of the time you do purchase with your own money, but there are times where you can get a test knit discount code for the yarn. I'll definitely mention it if the yarn was also purchased with a discount code. But this one here, pattern was received for free, but the yarn I purchased with my own money. I did not get any discount code for the test knit, but I did buy the yarn on discount from Unit. It just so happened that they were running a discount that weekend, so I decided to stock up on yarn, but the discount had nothing to do with the test knit. So this is meant to look like Beauty and the Beast Belle and the top of her dress, and it looks absolutely gorgeous. I've never seen any knitwear like this before, so when I saw the tester call, I had to sign up right away. I knew that this was something I really wanted in my closet, even though it's really out of my comfort zone, not just like the color, but also like the wear. I rarely wear anything that shows my shoulders. And even in the summertime, I typically wear t-shirts. I don't really wear like off the shoulder tops or anything like that, and I want to wear more of those. I want to kind of expand my closet and be more comfortable in my like body and stuff like that, so I figured this might be a good opportunity to do so. So yeah, I just signed up for the test knit and it's just beautiful. So this is knitted up in fingering weight for the body, and then the top here, the sash and the straps, are knitted in Mohair. And I decided to knit this up in Sandnes Garn Sunday. Both of these are actually the same color. It's 2122. One is called Yellowmoon, and I don't know why the Mohair is called like Moonstone when I look it up, but I think it's the same color, honestly. They're both 2122. They're just named differently, not sure why. But yes, this is knit up in both Sandnes Garn fingering and Mohair. Just went to go grab my handy dandy yarn collection here to show you guys what I knit it with. I've got too much in here now. I'm gonna have to start a second tin. But I knit it up in this Sunday yarn. And here are the details for you. You can take a look yourself. So this is the fingering weight yarn, and for the mohair, it is just the Tynn silk mohair that Sandnes Garn has, and it's also in color 2122. So I must say that the fingering weight was fine because I was left with about half the ball when I finished, but the mohair, I played yarn chicken so hard. This was the only mohair I had left after the project, and the problem is with me, not the pattern, because the pattern for my size suggested 30 grams of mohair, but I figured that maybe I could just buy 25 grams and that would be okay. I was wrong. well, I mean, I wasn't entirely wrong because yes, it was okay. Like, I was able to knit this up with no issues and left with this much mohair left. But I'm gonna be very honest, I feel like you should definitely buy 2 balls of mohair and maybe knit the sash a little bit thicker. That's like a personal preference thing, because I think this still looks really great, but I feel like it would be even nicer if the sash was to be thicker and more dramatic. But that would also make it a little bit more costumey, so I don't know where the balance is there, but I think if I were to do this again, I would make the sash a little bit wider and a little bit bigger. And to note, I knit this in a size small. I typically knit most of my patterns in a size small, which is usually the second smallest because the small is way too small, but the medium is like a little bit too big for me, so small is like perfect size for me. If you want to knit this in a small, I would suggest you definitely get 2 balls of mohair and don't be like me and play yarn chicken. But yeah, this is what I knit it with. And this actually took me about 2.5 weeks to knit, and this is of course with like work and everything like that. I wasn't knitting all day. There were days where I didn't have time to knit at all, so I would say you can definitely do this in 2.5 weeks, which I would say is a pretty standard amount of time for knitting blouses. Typically, like my camisole number 5 took me about 2 weeks as well, so yeah, it didn't take me any longer than I expected. This is also a very simple construction. Even though it looks incredibly intricate, it actually was super simple to knit and not hard at all. You do require a little bit of body shaping on the body, and this is my first time doing body shaping, so I did learn a bit. You're able to kind of decrease on the waist and then increase at the chest. I personally didn't decrease at the waist because this is supposed to be worn with -3 centimeter ease, and I felt like this was plenty negative ease for me, so I didn't feel the need to decrease at the waist. But I did increase at the chest a little bit, just so when it's stretched, you can kind of get the same thickness of the fabric throughout, and I think it worked out great. I don't want to give away too much about the pattern because it's not released yet, but if you are interested, go check it out. I will leave the pattern or the details in the description below, and I believe it is coming out in May. So look out for this one, and I will also have a knitting vlog out for this one as well if you're more interested in my full process, so look out for that. So this was the Belle Blouse. That's it for my FOs. I didn't have any other FOs, so let's move on to whips. You're gonna find that I'm having like a very yellow era right now. I don't know why. I'm just like super attracted to yellow. I guess because spring is coming and I just really want it to come sooner, so in my head I'm like, if I knit yellow then I feel like it's already spring, right? With my whips, we're kind of moving into yarn acquisition territory because I had to buy yarn for my whips, so you might find me mentioning my yarn acquisitions a little bit. But the first one I want to mention is called the Flocon sweater. I am actually signed up for 2 other test knits. After finishing the Belle Blouse, I just really enjoyed test knitting because I felt like I could like meet people in the community, and I just really liked working with designers. So I decided to sign up for more test knits, and I have 2 that I'm about to show you, which are my whips. And the first one is called the Flocon sweater. The Flocon sweater is also by Yamamuro, the same designer as the Puro Cardigan. So when I was knitting the Puro Cardigan, I saw that Rui was posting a tester call on her Instagram, and I was like, I want to sign up right now. I want to be a part of this because the Flocon sweater, number 1, looks great, and also I'm just a big fan of the Puro Cardigan, so I was like, I want to be a part of this other sweater. I signed up and I was so lucky to have been chosen, and I'm so honored to have been chosen. So I am knitting the Flocon sweater, and this is the swatch. This is what it looks like. The Flocon sweater is knit with stockinette on the top, and the bottom is knit with this ridge slip stitch. The top is supposed to be all stockinette, the bottom is this detailed stitching. Same with the arms, where the top is stockinette stitch and then the bottom would be the ridge slip stitch. The one requirement for this test knit is that you have to use the Rerum Natura yarn. I almost want to say like the Ruma, but it's not. It's the Rerum Natura yarn, and you cannot use any other yarn. It's kind of, I'm guessing it's a collaboration they're doing. So I just purchased it straight from the website, and disclaimer, I got a discount for purchasing this yarn because of the test knit. So a lot of times if you do test knit, they'll give you like a test knit code for the yarn, so you can get it at a cheaper price for basically knitting with this yarn. So I did purchase my yarn with this discount code. But I'm going to be very honest, I live in Canada. This yarn comes from France, and shipping was not freaking cheap. Shipping was so expensive. So in the end, I ended up paying the same amount I would have paid if I were to just go to Knitting Loft to get the yarn at full price in Canada. So that's just something to think about if you're going to purchase yarn at discount for a test knit. Just know that shipping is going to be super expensive anyway, so maybe look at local options if you like. But another thing I'll mention is that buying it from the website itself, they had a lot more stock on different colors, so you could actually choose whichever color you wanted. But if you go to like a local yarn shop, they might be out of stock, so that's also another thing to think about. So it's really up to you what you want to do. So the yarn that we are required to knit with are the Candide and the Bérénice. So this is the Candide, and the color for this one is called Citronnade. I believe it's right here. This is what it looks like. And the makeup of this yarn is 70% merino and 30% cotton. Well, actually it says like 2% other recycled materials and 28% cotton. So yeah, I don't really know how much the 2% recycled material makes, but I think it's just that they have to note that in there. But yeah, I think this one feels great. And the other yarn that I am using is called Bérénice. And the color for this one is Orgeat. Honestly, this is just a white mohair. I will say that this mohair feels a lot better than other mohair, like other brands. This one's made with 55% super kid mohair, 25% silk, and 20% wool. If you were to compare it with like the Tynn silk mohair, I know a lot of people say this, the Tynn silk mohair is like one of my least favorite, and I think a lot of people's least favorite, but it is the cheapest out there. So, and it have a lot of colors too, so I guess it's like a give or take, but I think this one feels way better than Tynn silk mohair. The Tynn silk mohair is made out of 57% mohair, 28% silk, and 15% wool. So what's the difference here? I guess it's the kid silk mohair, because these are both like very similar in makeup, but I don't know, you guys tell me. But yeah, this feels a lot better than the Tynn silk mohair. And when you knit these two together, you end up with this. I love like seeing swatches of two different yarn and how they combine. So this is how it combines. I honestly really like how this is looking. I love how the white mohair peeks through. I feel like it just gives it a nice dimension to the fabric, so I really like how this knits up. So the problem here now is that I didn't meet gauge, because for some reason I am knitting so tightly recently. I ended up having to upsize my needles to a 6mm. So originally the pattern suggests a 5.5mm, but yeah, I'm knitting it with a 6mm, which is completely fine. Actually, even when you look at this, so this is 5.5 and this one's 6mm. You can kind of tell that there's definitely more sparseness in this fabric than this fabric, but it doesn't bother me too much. I think it should be okay because I'm planning to wear this as like a spring summer sweater anyway. But yeah, I do notice that the fabric is definitely not as dense as the 5.5mm, but it's so like immaterial. The difference is very minimal. I am done the back yoke, so this is what the back yoke looks like, and then this is the front yoke, and I'm about to finish the front yoke today and then join for the body. And once I'm joined for the body, I'm just going to finish up knitting with these two balls. Once I run out of yarn for the body, I will move on to sleeves and collar and then continue with the body at the end. This was actually told by me by my friend Tar, so hi Tar if you're watching, and she suggested I kind of work my sweaters this way instead, and I think I really like it because I don't like when I'm knitting the body and I don't have sleeves and collar. It's like a little bit demotivating, but when I have the sleeves and collar done, I'm like, oh my god, this sweater is beautiful, like it's almost done, let's finish up the body, let's get it over with. And yeah, I think it's a little bit more motivating when I knit with this this order, I guess you would say. So yeah, that's what I'm planning to do. I guess a little bit of a try on if you want to see. This looks so silly, but this is what it looks like. I look like I'm a baby wearing a bib right now. It's so silly. But yeah, this is what it's like so far. Actually, I'm quite liking the fabric. I don't think it's too light or anything. Okay, so this is what my whip looks like so far, and of course I'm filming this as well, and it'll be a knit vlog out maybe in a couple of weeks. I'm also gonna talk to Rui just to make sure she's okay with me releasing the knit vlog before the pattern. If she's not, I'll probably release it in May. But yeah, I just want to give the designer like a full heads up, telling them that I'm going to release a vlog going through the whole sweater. So if they're not okay with it, I totally won't release it, and if they want me to release it after the pattern, I will do that too, because it's their pattern, so I just want to respect their timeline. Why do I kind of want to just wear this for the rest of the video? Okay, I'm gonna take this off. In terms of the size, I am knitting this in a size 2. 2 is also the second smallest size. That's typically the size I go for with all the knits. Oh, and another thing is, I've only knitted this for like 3-4 days? Not full days. Like, I would say if it's full days, like 2 days, but yeah, it knits up pretty fast. I'm really surprised about that. I mean, it is stock knit stitch, so I'm sure that really helps, but yeah, this knits up pretty fast. And I'm also using 6mm, so that might be why as well. So this is my whip. So I guess that was my whip along with yarn acquisition. So I did buy these two. So that's my first whip and yarn acquisition. And now let's move on to my second whip, which is not a real whip yet, but it's going to be a whip to be like very soon. And it is the Marie skirt. I am doing a second test knit, and this Marie skirt is by Andie Knits, and she is such a sweet person. I saw her put up the tester call for this skirt and I really liked it, so I signed up. So this skirt is unique because it actually is very tight on your hips, but it falls right where your hips are, straight down. And I really like that. It gives more of a relaxed look, I think. So yeah, it's just a pattern that I really believe in and that I really like. So I signed up and I knitted the swatch. This is broken rib stitch, and I've never knitted broken rib stitch before. This is my very first time. I found it really fun actually. I personally really like knitting ribbing, which is, I know, not something that everybody likes, but I really like ribbing because it keeps it interesting. And sometimes when I knit stock knit, the knit row is great, but then when I knit the purl row, I'm just like so annoyed because I don't personally like purling that much, and I purl slower than I knit, so I would prefer to knit more and purl less. But with that being said, stock knit can get boring if it's just knit stitches, so I feel like ribbing is quite fun for me. And when it's broken rib, it's like even better because now you're like ribbing and knitting. So the sample on the pattern actually uses a cotton yarn. So I'd also decide to buy more of a summery material yarn, like a cotton linen yarn, and I bought it from Knitpicks. It's called the Cotlin yarn. This is my first time using Cotlin, and this is what it looks like. I purchased it in the color Gosling. I wanted to knit this in a taupey light gray brown color, so I decided to purchase this yarn. And the yarn is exactly as they advertised it. There's nothing wrong with the yarn. The problem is with me, because I knit this up and I honestly feel like it's not bad. It's really not bad, but for some reason to me it reminds me of dishcloth. Because when I first started crocheting, you would use cotton yarn for dishcloth and stuff like that, right? So whenever I feel like cotton yarn or like yarn that's kind of like this, it just reminds me of dishcloth. And I think this is definitely a me problem and not the yarn problem, because the yarn is exactly as advertised. So there's nothing wrong with them there. It's me. I realized you can't even see the cotton yarn. I'm gonna move this over here like this. I decided that I don't want to use this yarn anymore for this skirt. So I'm kind of in this position where I need to find new yarn, but don't worry because I found the perfect yarn. I think what I'm gonna do is I'm going to switch it up and use a different yarn for this. And actually, I was thinking of using this combination. Look how freaking beautiful. Tell me this is not pretty. You can't. You can't tell me it's not pretty because it's pretty. You can't lie to me. So the combination of these two I think will give a very denim looking garment. And how cute would it be if I knitted this and it looked like a denim skirt, and it's actually like a knitted denim skirt. So I'm gonna swatch it up after I film this video, and then I'm gonna insert a clip of it here so you can see. But I think it's gonna give a denim look to the garment, and I'm very excited for that. A little bit about these two yarn. This one right here is actually the cashmere yarn that I bought from AliExpress. In my last video when I was showing the Salty Day sweater, I shared with you guys an AliExpress cashmere yarn, and it was super cheap. It was like $30 for 6 balls. I don't remember, it was like I had to pay for shipping or something like that, but all in all it was like 30 something dollars Canadian, and I felt like that was super cheap. I did say it was lace, but now I'm looking at it, I'm thinking maybe this is light fingering and not lace weight yarn, so keep that in mind. And this originally was like super blue to a point where it looked unwearable blue, and I knew that I don't really like blues of that color, so I decided to use some Rit Dye color removal to remove out the blue, and I was left with this. So if you're buying that yarn, just be careful because the color options on AliExpress does not look like the actual yarn color in real life, so just keep that in mind. If it's white, it'll look the same, but if it's like blue or pink or whatever color it is, like it will not look like what they advertise, so be very, very, very careful with that. And initially I was like, this is giving dark denim or like more blue denim, but yeah. And then I also bought this yarn from Good Grief. So this yarn is actually Good Grief's Eucalyptus in their fundamental sock yarn. It's hand dyed. I wound it up yesterday and it looks absolutely gorgeous. It looks like light wash denim. So how fitting are these two together? It's just like, it's just denim. It's giving denim, and I want a denim skirt, so I think this would look perfect. So this is my whip, my second whip to be. Not exactly a whip yet, but a whip to be. So let's move on now to yarn acquisition, even though I kind of already talked about this acquisition and this acquisition. But yeah, I have more yarn acquisition because I am crazy and I just keep buying yarn. But my yarn is actually being turned into actual garments, just not at the same rate. So I am building a yarn stash a little bit. It's okay, it's a collection, you know? Buying yarn and using yarn are two separate hobbies. I understand that. But yeah, I do have a lot of yarn to share with you guys. Just let's not judge me, okay? So let's move on to yarn acquisitions, and the first one I'm going to share with you is actually the one I just showed you. It's this one that I wound up into a yarn cake. Originally it came in a hank like this, and I'm going to share this with you guys along with the other one I bought. So these two are from Good Grief. Here's another look at it. These two fundamental sock yarns were actually on sale at Good Grief. It was buy two, get one free. So Good Grief for the month of March was doing a March Madness sale. And for every day of March, they were offering a sale on a particular item, or it could be like free shipping, free tote bag, etc. I believe it was March 2nd when they were offering buy two, get one free on their fundamental sock yarn. And of course I bought two. I got one free for each of these colors. So I got 6 hanks of these yarn. I didn't really know what I wanted to do with it at the time, but I just knew I really liked the yarn, so I purchased it. I'm very glad I did because this is going to end up being my Marie skirt, and it's just nice to have the yarn ready when I need it. So this Eucalyptus is going to turn into the Marie skirt, which I'm very happy about. I bought 3 hanks and I believe that should be enough for the skirt. So I'm also trying to knit the Midi skirt. You can choose between mini, midi, and maxi, and I chose midi because maxi is a little bit too long for me, and then minis I can't really wear to work, so I felt like midi was like the perfect length for work and for just normal leisure. Oh, and by the way, I was taught by my friend to do this to all my yarn cakes, so this way the end of the yarn won't kind of unravel. And my yarn cakes almost never unravel when I use these clips instead of doing like the knot method. Really, really great trick. So yeah, this one is called Eucalyptus and this one is called Blue Sage. The Eucalyptus I'm going to turn into the Marie skirt, which is great. And then for Blue Sage, I'm going to knit it together with the Leo and Roxy yarn. The Leo and Roxy yarn I purchased about a month and a half ago. I actually mentioned it in another video as well. I mentioned how this yarn was supposed to have a little bit more color variegation, but to me it doesn't look variegated at all. If you see here, it actually just looks like a solid color, not even tonal. So I wasn't too happy about that, but however, the color is still really beautiful nonetheless, so I just kept it. But I'm thinking I'm gonna hold these two together and I'm gonna make the Regolith hoodie. I really like the Regolith hoodie because it's just so pretty, and I see a lot of people knitting it and they all look so good in it, so I decided that I want to knit one for myself as well, and hopefully with these two together I'll be able to meet Gage. This one is a Leo and Roxy, I don't know what this is called, like the 80-20 yarn or something like that, in the color Dew. And now we're kind of jumping into like planned knits territory, but I believe I'll be knitting this maybe in the summertime when I get my test knits done and I have a little bit more free time. So yeah, this will be my summer knit. Even though it's a hoodie, I think it can kind of, I'll probably be done by fall anyway, so yeah. When I bought the Cotton yarn from Knit Picks, I also purchased the Stroll tonal yarn because I know I really like Stroll. It's so nice and it doesn't itch me or anything. It just feels so plush. So I decided to buy some Stroll tonal and I bought it in the color Eucalyptus. Are you guys like catching onto something? Because for some reason I'm just always so drawn to yarn with a color named Eucalyptus. I just really like these like minty bluey colors. This is the Stroll fingering weight. This is what it looks like. Absolutely gorgeous. But when I saw it online, I didn't expect it to look so freaking similar to these two. Like, guys, these are like the blue greens. So yeah, I do have the Stroll as well. Actually, I think that's about it for the yarn acquisition. So I did buy a lot of yarn this month, but a lot of it was for test knits, so yeah. Let's move on. Now with FOs, whips, and yarn acquisition done, let's talk about knitting plans. So I know I touched on knitting plans a little bit, but essentially I need to knit the Flocon sweater by end of April because that's when the test knit period ends. And then for the Marie skirt, I need to knit up in June. I believe it's mid-June. So these two are basically what I have planned so far. On top of that, my friend asked me to knit her a camisole, so I will definitely be doing that as well. She's coming to Toronto in June and I'm going to meet up with her, so I need to knit a camisole up by then. The camisole that I'm going to be knitting her is the camisole number 5 by My Favorite Things Knitwear. I've knit this up twice already. I really like this pattern and that's actually part of the reason why I'm deciding to knit this for her, and also I already have the pattern, so why not? But this pattern looks so good on everybody. I feel like it's just such a universal pattern where it fits well on everyone and it's just so well written, so I decided I will knit that up for her. The yarn that I'm going to use for that one is the Knitting for Olive Cotton Merino, and it is in the color Putty. So I'm sure you guys are very familiar with Knitting for Olive and all the color ranges. I actually purchased this when I was knitting my first or second camisole number 5, so that would have been like March 2023. And I just really wanted to knit myself a camisole number 5 in this color, but I just never got around to it. I ended up knitting it in this other white color and a green color. And I just wanted to knit other things by then, and I didn't really want to start a third camisole number 5, so I just left this yarn unused. It's been in my yarn stash for a year and I'm just very, very, very happy that I can finally use it for something else and for somebody else. I love that I get to knit for other people, and it's even better when it's using yarn that I already have in my stash. So yeah, I'm very excited about this. The camisole number 5 typically takes me like 2 to 3 weeks to knit, so I really hope I can kind of add this to my knitting plan because I already have these two, but I think it should be okay. Like, this one's gonna be done in April and these two have to be done by June. I think I can do it. I hope so. Anyway, I think that's about it, but there is one more thing I want to share. I went to IKEA recently and I purchased their plate holders, and I will put a photo of what the plate holders look like, but I was thinking that these would actually be really good for holding hanks of yarn. I asked my dad to cut the middle piece that was holding it together. So it used to be like this and there were like 2 rods in between the two. I asked my dad to help me cut it off and basically to sand it because I don't know anything about woodwork. Like, I can knit a sweater, but I cannot do anything around woodwork to save my life. So my dad was really nice and he cut it up for me and separated the 2 pieces, and I'm thinking I want to use this to hold hanks. So for example, I feel like I can do this. Like, are you kidding me? I think this would work. Like, how beautiful would my house be if I just had hanks of yarn sitting like this around my house? Thoughts? Oh my god, all my yarn looks the same. And then I have one more. Like, I can put the Noro yarn here. Like, look how nice. Basically, I want these around my house so that I can put up hanks of yarn, because if I'm going to be buying yarn like this, I'm going to have to use it as house decor and yarn to make it more value. The only problem is I don't know where to put it, and I have a cat, so if I put it up like this, he's just gonna think it's a toy or something. So I think I have to put it pretty high up. But if I were to put on against a wall, so like I won't put on this wall or anything, but let's just do this as a test. Like, how pretty would that be? And I don't want to just put it up on the wall like this, because I don't want to damage the walls, because I'm going to be moving soon, hopefully. So I'm still deciding on where to put this and how to put it up, but that is my vision. So if you guys have any tips for me, can you share it with me so I can get some ideas on how to put these up, hopefully around the house. I think that's actually about it. I shared everything that's up to date with me in March. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and definitely share with me what you guys are knitting and what you guys are planning to knit so I can get some ideas on what's out there and get inspired by what you guys are doing. So just leave it down below, and I love to chat with you guys. Check out my knitting vlogs if you're interested. I'll have a lot more coming in the next few months, especially with everything that I'm knitting. Basically everything I'm going to knit, I'm going to turn into a knitting vlog to share with you guys. Definitely stay tuned for those. They're coming. It might come slowly, but they're coming, I promise. The next video I'm going to put up is probably going to be the knitting vlog for the Belle Blouse. So look out for that if you're interested. And you can expect these knitting podcasts once a month. The next one will be in April. So I'll see you guys in a month for these knitting podcasts. But other than that, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!